Not there yet.
Yes, he is.
What the heck?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh. I'm not quite sure what that.
Have you attempted to mute?
Okay, everyone is muted now. We have started recording, and of course, if you are speaking, then you will unmute yourself at that moment. Welcome to members, new members, all our guests. We will start with, as soon as I can start. Here we go. Here. There we go. And share. Okay, I'm hoping that everyone can see our beginning slide. Good. Okay. All right. Welcome to the CFUW Aurora Newmarket General Meeting for March 22nd. Next one. As we gather tonight, let's recognize the history, spirituality, and culture of the Indigenous people of this region, appreciate their stewardship of this land. York Region has been continuously inhabited for 11,000 years. We are situated on traditional territories of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. Its presence here continues to this day. The Chippewas of Georgina Island, our closest Indigenous community, are Anishinaabe, which means true people or original people. They are part of a larger group of the Ojibwe-speaking people, the Chippewas of Lake Huron and Simcoe. We seek to live in respect, peace, and right relations, acknowledging the enduring presence of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people on this land, and we thank them for sharing it with us. And we're about to say hello to our speaker. I'm not doing the introduction. I just want to show you this slide because we do have a link here if you want to help, particularly in the Ukraine situation, which Rahul is going to tell us all about tonight. There's the link, and we'll put the link up on our website. I think it's already there, and we'll keep it up for you. I'm going to stop my share. Okay, and we'll go to introductions. Gail, you'll have to unmute.
Hi, hello to Rahul Singh. We're so happy to have you here. A funny story is that a month ago, I went for a hike with a friend who had just spoken to Rahul Singh the day before. Her name's Stephanie Oak, and she works with Save the Children. And Rahul was due to speak on CBC in 5 minutes. She was impressed that you picked up the phone, Rahul. And that's why I was hopeful that we would still be able to hear you tonight. Rahul Singh founded the David McAntony Gibson Foundation, known as GlobalMedic, in 1999 to honor the memory of his best friend who tragically lost his life in 1998. Since the organization was founded, GlobalMedic rapid response teams have been deployed on 229 missions in 76 countries. 30 of which were led personally by our speaker. From the delivery of water purification equipment, the installation of field hospitals, and even innovative programs such as operating unmanned aerial vehicles to survey disaster zones, Singh continually strives to develop Canadian innovation in order to save lives. Actually, it was just, you received a grant for $250,000 to expand your rescue AV system. That's something that I'd like to hear more about. Starting as an $8,000 small venture, fiscal 2015 had revenues of $6.2 million. So Rahul has been on Time Magazine's list of 100 most influential people in the world in 2010. In 2009, he received the Caldwell Partners Award for the top 40 under 40 in Canada. Singh was invested as an officer of the Order of Ontario in 2012, and later that year, His Royal Highness Prince Charles presented Singh with a Diamond Jubilee Medal. So, Rahul, we know you are very busy and look forward to hearing about all you have to tell us.
Let me just take myself off mute. Can everybody hear me? Just give me a thumbs up. All right, that's perfect. And you can see the screen?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, though, thanks for the intro. That's terrific. You know, we won a Google Impact Challenge grant for our use of technology for good, which is interesting. And I'll be honest with you, you wonder about these grants and these big names, like if it's all insider trading. And just to be frank, my uncle doesn't own Google. So the fact that they recognize the work that we were doing using drones to deliver aid, to do situational awareness, you know, make instant maps, comprehensive damage assessments, you know, figure out what roads were out, what bridges were out. The idea of just providing emergency managers with better information early on so they can make better decisions, because better decisions lead to more lives being saved. You know, it was good. And you know, we've run, I think, 15 ops in 14 countries using our drones. So it is an interesting program. We're happy that Google funded us. We'd love more funding from Google. In case any of you do happen to own Google and you're on the call, you know, tell your people, you know, we'd love the additional funding. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about GlobalMedic, and then I guess imagine everybody's been glued to their screen talking Ukraine. So let's talk Ukraine a lot as well here, and then I'll take some questions at the end. So GlobalMedic, let's just see if I can get my slides to flip. There we go. Next slide's up, right? You can see it says 240 responses. So just think of how fast we operate, that from a few months ago when they asked us to give this talk and we gave a bio over it, you know, here's Gail reading out 228 responses in 76 countries. Well, since that time, we've probably run 12 ops in 4 more countries. We've helped over 4 million folks. That's, you know, that's just what we do. When disaster strikes, we respond, and we really have this mantra, we have this belief that we want to get the right aid to the right people at the right time. That's interesting because we kind of work in 6 sectors, okay? So the first thing that we do, and it's probably the most important, is get people clean drinking water. If you don't have clean drinking water, you're in a world of trouble. You've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You know, you can last 3 minutes without oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, I can't get to you in time. I couldn't even get to you in time as a paramedic in the city most of the time, right? Just think of traffic and elevators and buildings. Like if you're not breathing, it's really hard to get there and save your life. You can last about 3 days without clean water before you'll drink anything, or your kidneys will start shutting down. Then you go about 30 days without food. I mean, you'll be very, very hungry and you'll be immunocompromised, but that's the hierarchy of needs, right? So we always think that where we can have our most impact is on that water side, because we want to avoid, you know, kids and the vulnerable from having, you know, bad water, which will then just, you know, make them immunocompromised and then harm them. And the folks that die because of bad water are always the elderly and always the young. You know, the folks in between have a little bit more wherewithal. We also do an emergency food program. The Rescue AV program, that's our Google funded model. I mean, the Google funding's over now, but we still run it. We're a world leader in it. We're a standby partner, a world food program. If you were any airline junkies in the room, like people that love airplanes, you've heard of ICAO or the International Transportation Forum. If you research their documents and look at concept of operations, of humanitarian drone operations, it's all us, it's our stuff. We made it public so that every other drone operator in the world would have at least the standard that we use, because we want everyone to be doing this really well. And we encourage the other operators that if they have a better standard, to share it, and then we would even use that. We've got a flood response program. Obviously, we provide medical services. You know, how do you have a name like GlobalMedic if you don't provide medical services? And then we provide shelter as well. Now, a lot of times when we use critical infrastructure, tenting, we use that for our field hospitals, but you can imagine if you're coming in with big tents, they can be used for anything: schools, warehouses, child-friendly spaces, clinics, obviously the medical side to house people, right? So those are the 6 areas that we typically operate in. Let's talk about Ukraine. So we've worked there since 2014. You may remember the Maidan, the push and the pull against the part of the country wanting to go towards the West, part of the country wanting to stay in the old Soviet system, the protests in the streets, the violence, the riots, the presidential election that everyone protested, and then the annexation of Crimea, and then the breakaway republics of Luhansk and Donetsk, right? So this is 2014, we start working there. In that war, 1.7 million people were displaced at the height of that war total. Look at what's going on today. You can see the maps in front of you. There's 10 million people that have been displaced. Now, 3.3 million of them, we put this slide together yesterday for you, so that number's gone up. It's over 3.5 today. 3.5 million people have formally walked across the border, meaning they're refugees. Who are the refugees? Women and children and the elderly, right? This is it. These are the people that are fleeing that country. They're coming out to seek the safety and sanctuary of another country. It's huge. Internally, this is a country of 44 million people. Internally, we think there's 6.5 million that have fled from areas of fighting and gone progressively west. We have no idea what this true number is. And anyone that tells you that does, they're just flat out lying. These are estimates. I think this number is probably closer to a quarter of their population, 12 million affected, 15 million affected, based on the fact of how populated a lot of these cities are and strategically where they are. So if you even if you use the numbers that I've given you, we're 3 weeks into this war, and it's 5 times the impact of the previous conflict. So it's an incredibly large, catastrophic situation, right? It's unbelievable what's happening. And the humanitarian needs are incredibly high. So I just wanted to set that tone for you, or set that understanding of what's going on. This is a map of our operations. This is a detailed breakdown of our operations that correspond to this map. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip back and forth so you can read the detailed op while I'm kind of talking about it. Let's talk about what we're doing inside Ukraine first. So you can kind of read here anything that says inside Ukraine, the second and the fourth line. So inside Ukraine, you can imagine everybody is moving from the east, getting away from the fighting and going progressively west. Well, when there's fighting on the street and shelling, people run, people flee. I mean, let's face it, if any of us had to go through this, we would just run. Do you think, what would you do right now? You had your wallet on you, you had to flee. Maybe you're lucky, you can get in your car and you can head progressively westward towards Calgary to get some safety, right? Do you have any money right now on you? Do you have cash? You have to get to a bank machine to get cash, don't you? Do you think the bank machine is going to meet your max right now? They'll probably cap it. Don't you think everybody else in the country is hitting that same bank machine at that moment? Do you have a credit card? Can you go buy gas? Is there gas available? How are you physically going to pay for it? Now, remember, you're the lucky one. You've got a car and the fighting has just started. So as the fighting rolls into 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and you're trying to flee, you're ending up at train stations or bus stations, and the government, they're doing something smart. They're making all those trains and all those buses available for free. People are working. People are just moving folks out of harm's way and progressively west, right? But those very same people that are fleeing, they don't have anything. They've got the clothes on their back. They might have a bag, right? But they just don't have much. And then when they arrive in places like Lviv, we're feeding them. We've just run this feeding program. I'll show it to you here. It's called Feed Lviv. It's a very cute little program. We give people comfort food. So that's fish and rice or fish and bulgur or chicken and bulgur. We're even giving them salad. I gotta be honest with you. I'm an old fat guy. I'm like, what are you giving anyone salad for? Just give them a sandwich or some borscht or some soup, get them warm, move them on. And my officers are like, no, let's give folks dignity and greens and keep them healthy. And let's do this properly. There's some soup in there. There's a little bit of iced tea. There's a bit of cake. We get this package for about €2, and then we provide it. You see the tent out there, and folks just come and take it, and they get to eat. Now, the interesting thing is the need that we are meeting is just putting food into people's bellies, right? And you know what? It's such a minor thing in the grand scheme of things, but it's a bit of comfort food for folks. They're on the run, they're on the move. It's one less thing they need to think about. But let's look at the ancillary benefits. If I hire a kitchen locally to produce this, I'm flowing money into the local economy, right? I'm helping to keep their systems going. The money goes into the local economy. People are paid to make this food. They don't do it for free. It's their jobs, right? If those folks are out of work and they lose the opportunity, their livelihood or their income, like, this is really tragic stuff. They're going to end up becoming an economic refugee at this point, because in this area, it's slightly affected by war, but not really, because it's fairly safe. So one of the interventions that we can do is by coming in and getting people the right aid, but then doing it in the right way, you know? And now, look, how else could I do this? I could stand in the train station and I could hand out, the local currency is called hryvnia, but imagine I was handing out like $5 bills, right? €5 notes, right? I could just stand there and hand them out to people. I'd probably get mugged. You know, a lot of people would be scared. You know, they'd be like, that guy's got a lot of money. Can we take his money? If I handed you $5 and you had very limited money on you and I said, go buy yourself some food, respectfully, I think a lot of people wouldn't. They would just pocket that money and they'd realize that this is the only money I've got and I'm not going to spend it on food and I'm going to keep starving myself and I got to just get to safety. Or I can just get you the food. And by the way, we drive price down to 2, right? Still keep jobs in, we've eliminated profit, still keep people employed and working. So just do this, the simple variable. I can give you 5 or I can do it for 2. If I do it for 2, it means I can help 2.5 times as many of you, right? So the same budget that could help 400 people actually helps 1,000 people, right? Just like think of that in scale. Now we got to add zeros to the end of this because that's how many people that are affected. So that's what's going on in Lviv, kind of an interesting thing. So, and you see Lviv's up high in the western part of the country there, right? Let's keep talking about what we're doing in other places in, you know, inside. So this shows Romania operations. Do you see everybody's kind of at convoys, grabbing stuff, loading up vans? Those vans are coming from that Romania team in Suceava, and we are running cross-border into Trinitsky. Everything from food to medications to medicines. From Poland, which is kind of up top from Lviv, we're running in medicines as well. Let's talk about the medical supplies that we're putting in and our theory of change and our theory of intervention behind that. So you remember you just fled. I just said you didn't have any money. We know you're hungry. You didn't have any food. Does anybody in the room listening, does anyone take pills? Anyone take medication every day? Anyone got high blood pressure? You think your blood pressure would be a little bit higher when the bombs are going off? Where's your meds? Did you take them? I guarantee you didn't. You left them at home. So now you get to the safety of Lviv. Thank God you get a little bit of food from us, right? Where are your meds? If you don't get your meds and you're on blood pressure medication, if you don't take your meds for 5-6 days in a row, what happens? You're in hypertensive crisis and you're going to end up in a hospital. So we put in essential medicines, all these basics, diabetic stuff, antipyretics, antibiotics, antihypertensives, you know, all the antis for the stuff that we know folks have, right? And we know that we cannot allow them to get sick to go into that hospital. So all the basic stuff, you know, we push in. Does anyone think that the pharmacy shelves in Lviv are stocked and full? That even if you had money, you could go in and somehow buy your meds? Not a chance. So we put 20 skids of meds in. Then the reason we want to keep you out of those hospitals with your preventable disease is because all those hospitals have trauma patients. There's thousands of people getting shot, hurt, injured, right? There's still car accidents, still people falling and breaking their hip, right? All the stuff that normally happens is still happening, except now there's aerial bombardments, buildings collapsing, rocket strikes, street fighting, shelling, right? Like there's people getting hurt. And where do they end up? If they're lucky and somebody bandages them in the field, if they're lucky, they get brought to a hospital in a safe zone, Lviv, or Trinitsky, or Uzgrad, right? Or Odessa. For now, it seems safe. I doubt that'll stay. So we put in trauma supplies. They got to change dressings like every so many hours, right? And everybody's brought in dressings from these neighboring countries. And now we're going far back as England and France. So we're bringing them out from us. And we're just got to bring those in. The other thing we've been providing is a lot of water purification tablets, because unfortunately, a weapon in this war is to cut off access to clean drinking water and harm the civilian population in order to force them to surrender. You probably saw that recently in the news where they're saying, we'll let Mariupol surrender if you do it today. I think it was Monday. Mariupol refused. And these poor people in Mariupol, anyone that tells you they can access them, not telling the truth. No one can get to them. This is awful. Like, these folks are just cut off, from any form of assistance, can't get out. Every time they try and get out, the shelling starts. Now they can't even try anymore. Like, it's heartbreaking to see. But if you can get in there and distribute little tablets to clean water, then at least people don't die from dirty water, right? So we put 3.75 million tablets in there, which is literally a drop in the bucket. Remember, there's 44 million people that live here, right? One tablet's 1 liter. You need 3 liters a day to drink. Let me just look at me. I'm going through water too while I stand here and chat with you, right? So the other thing we use that water tablet for, and people don't realize this, is during a war, power goes out. Like, power is tough. So if I'm in a hospital and I have to sterilize my equipment and I got no power, I got no autoclave, right? So if I can drop a tablet in some water, purify it, use that water to now clean my instruments, I have a better opportunity of preventing infection during some of the trauma interventions I'm going to do. So you see how everything we're doing is just kind of smart. It's targeted. It's not our first war. I'm hopeful it'll be our last, but it's not our first. And the realist in me says it's not going to be our last. So this is the other medical ops that we're doing. So we're running them into Lviv. The team's running them into Trinitsky from Romania. You can kind of see, what we're doing here in the summary. And then let's just talk about, our Romania operation. So everyone that's fleeing and coming into Romania, the early days, they were coming by cars, they were the upper middle class and they were getting out. And now you're seeing people that are just coming in and trying to get on, they're just on buses or they walk to the border. They got to have a place to stay. So the Romanians, many families have opened their homes. They've said, please just stay with me. They don't speak the same language. They're not cousins. They're not related. They're just compassionate people who said, please stay with me. So hundreds of thousands of folks are doing that. Other folks are staying on cots in gyms and churches and church basements, in community centers, in schools, in banquet halls, in wedding centers. So we've been doing, if you look at the bottom left photo, that's a shelter. So what happens is no one is ready for this, right? So some of the shelters pop up cots, but no one has enough cots and bedding and blankets for everybody. No one has washing machines in place or washing services to go and then, wash up that linen, hoping that maybe it's somebody else in it the next day. And then that refugee's gotten into a more permanent home or headed out somewhere, right? Think of all the supplies. Like I just said early on, you probably didn't grab your medicines. Did you get your toiletry bag? Probably not. So when you're arriving to shelter, like if you could get basic, hygiene, just the basic things to keep you healthy and safe and clean. Like these are all the things that we're providing. So you can see some of our members. So on the top right, the short guy here with the mask on that you see his face behind the van, that's Jack Turner. He's a retired district fire chief. This guy put 33 years on the line fighting fires in the city of Toronto. This is his 8th deployment. It's the 7th country he's been to for me. He's out there working. He's, on the border heading into Ukraine. You kind of see him unloading boxes and then delivering aid out. You can see him pulling out bedding and linen that's going over. The guy in the bottom left, this is the chief planner for the city of Barrie. You imagine that? He used to be the CAO. Sorry, he used to be the CEO of the city of Barrie. Now he's the chief planner for the city of Brampton. He's a very high level person, right? So his job is to get in there, figure out where we can plug our assistance in and help. And him and Jack and Jowett are going around, going to the shelters saying, what do you need? Do you need food? Are you cooking people food? Do you want us to buy the bulk food so you can cook it? They're going to restaurants and saying, can you go and provide these sandwiches at the border? We'll cover the cost for it. Again, funds in the local economy, support the hosts, right? Let's help the refugees. Don't create a system where people get angry and are harmful and negative towards the refugees, because we've all seen that happen, right? So this is what they're doing. At the same time, they're running cross-border ops in, and now they're doing food hampers. And they're handing those food hampers out to families that are staying and that are going to stay there for a while in Romania. And more importantly, they're handing those food hampers out to the families that are hosting those refugee families. Because I'll be honest with you, in northeastern Romania, it's not Hollywood, it's not Beverly Hills, it's not full of rich people that can absorb this. It's full of like very working class folks that don't really have a whole lot of extra money, but have opened their hearts and are helping folks. And at the very least, if we get in and get them the food to offset those costs, it helps. And the other reason we do that is if I buy in bulk and I encourage donations from the big donors, I drive costs down. So if you went into a store and I just gave you a $50 card, you could buy certain things. But if I bought thousands upon thousands upon thousands of items, I guarantee you I'm going to get a better price than you, the individual consumer, right? And if I get a system to get this out to you, like the Amazon delivery model, right? I'm going to drive costs down. Do you remember I talked about the whole, I could hand out a €5 note or I can do the food for $2? Same principle behind this. How can we drive up aid, right? These guys that are out deployed for us, they're volunteering. Now, what do you think the chief planner for the city of Brampton makes? Like, think of that skill set, how much I'd have to pay. What do you think a district fire chief makes, right? Like, we have very high caliber folks and they're volunteering their time. We don't stay in fancy hotels. Like, they're staying in some, very basic places, and they're just out working every single day. Now, these two guys have just rotated home, and there's another team in there, another retired platoon chief from Vaughan. And then one of my junior officers, she's in, it's her second op. She's worked in Haiti before, and now, she's in there, and they're scaling up their operations. So let's look at Moldova, right? Same kind of thing. In Moldova is so poor. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of where Moldova is or anything about Moldova. Very interesting place. Poorest country in Europe. Like, this is it. It's a very poor place. So our teams, you can kind of see them in the top right. The woman holding the basket here, that's Kathleen Doherty. She's a retired OPP sergeant. She lives up in Barrie. She used to run the Lieutenant Governor's security detail, like super high up, very well thinking, person. She's now set up a food hamper program to distribute to families, right? On Sunday, they hit 350 families. We're going to hit 750 families this week. I want over 1,000 next week. Think of that scale. We've got the food hampers down to $15 Canadian, and if they go into the store and buy them, it's more over 50, right? So we're at scale, we're helping. Next to her is a guy named John. John's a retired detective sergeant from the Peel Regional Police. Just had a heart attack a few months ago. He's cleared and he's back out there. He actually volunteered for me in Ukraine in 2015 during the war. We're on a number of ops in the southeast. And there he is, right on the neighbor. Do you know in Moldova, there's a bunch of Russian troops about 100 miles from them? We're petrified those Russian troops will activate and decide to take Moldova, and then they have to bail. Now tomorrow, the two of them will rotate out. Behind the pole, that's Kristen. She's pretty young. She's probably 28. She's one of my managers. She works in here for us. This is like, I think, her third or fourth op, or first op out as a manager. Her job is to get this program up to scale. Now, while this hamper program is going up to scale, look at everything else we're doing. We've taken over some soup kitchens. You can kind of see that. We're handing sandwiches to people that are boarding trains to leave, right? Just because you came into the country hungry doesn't mean that you're not leaving hungry as well. And most of the folks, 2 out of every 3 refugees leaves Moldova. Moldova is very poor. And a lot of the folks that came up from Odessa, they cut through Moldova because it was an easy point of entry, but they're on their way somewhere else. But the 1 out of 3, the 100,000 out of the 300,000 that entered, that stayed, oh my God, they are so incredibly poor. It's unbelievable. When we run the distributions, families are walking up. There are no cars coming up, walking up, taking the tram, coming up, and then just getting their food and going. And they're grateful. They're so kind. They're so helpful. Like, they're so thankful that somebody gave them food that they like to eat. Ukrainians, I don't know if anyone's listening, in the audience that is Ukrainian, but they love buckwheat. I have no idea what buckwheat is, but for some reason they love buckwheat. So we got buckwheat. Even in the kits we're making from here, we're putting buckwheat in. There's rice, there's other peas and then beans and some other stuff in that folks go to. But this Moldova program is fascinating. It's grassroots, it's granular, it's organic, it's from the bottom up. And we've got folks, helping us out. I talked a little bit about the medical shipment and the aquatabs kind of earlier on, right? Everything from the essential meds. Air Canada, you can kind of see that plane up top. How wonderful are they? Divert flight that was on its way to Frankfurt, into Warsaw, to drop our skids and then some other medical aid in. Our teams grab it, from the airport, can argue with customs for about a day, and then truck it into Lviv, right? But how kind are they? Other airlines are now offering us some space as well. I got a couple minutes left before I'll take questions. So let me just tell you about some of the other things that we're doing. So this week, towards the end of the week and then early next week, we're packing more food kits. These food kits will end up in a bucket instead of a box or a bag. They're going to go from here. The reason they're going from here is this thing is so big. Our supply chains are kind of stuck in Europe. Everybody's buying stuff. Everyone's trying to get it. You can't even get cardboard because most of the suppliers, the original cardboard, come from the Russian side. You can't buy Russian products now. We shouldn't, right? So you got to recreate supply chains, become creative. We're going to use the buckets to air freight them in. They don't get banged up. And if they do get banged up, it protects the food inside anyway. Then the family that gets it can use the bucket to go scoop water. And of course, we're going to put those tablets in as well as the food kits. We're doing 4,800 of those buckets. Every bucket's going to have about 20 pounds of food, right? So this is heavy, heavy lift. WestJet's offered us an air bridge into Gatwick. We can truck it from Gatwick into Romania. That'll take 2-3 days and then start running them across. We're going to do a new medical program where we really focus on getting trauma supplies to civilians, right? Because there's so much trauma there. And at the same time, in the next couple days, Humber College, they're going to let us use their labs, and their paramedic instructors are going to give little mini 1-minute, 2-minute video courses, how to stop the bleeding, how to use this dressing, how to carry that patient. And then some of our Ukrainian speaking medics are going to dub it. And then we're going to blast those images out so that someone in the war zone can look at this particular video and understand, okay, this is how I use this kit, or this is what I'm going to do in an attempt to save lives. We're probably going to do the same thing with hazmat. I'm very worried that you'll see a chemical weapons release here. We saw it in Syria. We ran a lot of counter chemical weapons release ops in Syria, where the problem with some of the chemical weapons releases is people will take the patient into the hospital. You get a sarin gas release, you bring the patients to the hospital, you've completely destroyed your hospital. It's contaminated, you can't use it anymore. So if we provided large shelters, taught them how to set it up, said, here's how you decon, here's some chemical resistant gloves, here's some respirators to protect your rescuers, and then provided the training on video, again, with a translator, these are ways to help. I mean, during Syria, look, I'll be super candid. We used to bring some of the responders out to the Turkish border, and then we would train them there, and then they would go back in. If we do that here, we run the risk of a missile strike, coming into a non-fighting area right now. And if you go back up to this original map, I mean, you can see where there is fighting, and there's only a safe little enclave circle around Moldova, Romania, and then, the bottom end. But that's closing off quickly. And yet we have to just get one step ahead of what's going to happen in this war. So that's why we're talking about, these chemical strikes and our fear on those. So our programming's interesting. Like, it really helps people when people come across, the border, they're getting fed, like, these kids and the kids that are coming in, they got a safe place to sleep. They'll get hygiene items, from us. Many of the folks in Moldova, they're living out in camps. So we bought them firewood for the boilers. I mean, just think of how different that is than your life and how you heat your homes right now. So the programs are effective. Our volunteers are out kind of running them, scaling them up. The needs are immense. Some of the things that we do is we talk to the refugees and we kind of ask them what they need. We've made some videos about that. I encourage all of you to join our social media. Look at some of the videos. So it's called Refugee Voices. You can kind of see what the women are telling us, right? And remember, all these refugees are women and children. Like, this is some pretty heartbreaking stuff that's going on. We've also got a video series called Field Dispatches. You can hear some of our folks and them telling you what we're doing. We've been raising funds. We've been converting those funds into really good programming on the ground. This is a really ugly war. And I mean, it's not slowing down. So I encourage all of you to help us. I hope I haven't bored you to tears with my presentation. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Maybe if you want to stop the screen share and then we'll ask people if they have questions, you can put up your hand or. We don't have a big crowd. We've got about 80 people.
We have a couple in chat.
Where can I find chat? Hold on.
Bottom of your screen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, from our communications, I'll read this one. Just to let you know, from Anne Marie, GlobalMedic is global machine. Amazed at all your group is doing, so many layers of support for refugees from those who are helping them. And we have been featuring your feed on our stories.
Yeah, so somebody's asking about drones. So before I get into that, let me tell you a couple of the other ops that we're looking at. We're trying to find pockets of where refugees are going to settle. So we think like Kashkish or Krakow or these places like in neighboring countries. And then we'll open up little child-friendly spaces where, you know, moms can bring their kids. They can have a little soup kitchen, they can cook, they can make a meal, and then we'll have volunteers in there and they'll pack food aid. And then those hampers will go to the families in that little community. But we want, you know, we want 1,000, 2,000 family pockets, right? So some of the other cities will, you know, will go into that, right? And if we can be in proximity to a border, then we can pack enough kits in there to then keep running it across the border. It's all about supply chain and efficiency now, right? And that'll be the expansion. And the other thing is if we can get any form of stability, and you know, like a ceasefire, cessation of hostilities, we'll move forward into Ukraine. Like we have lots of people in Ukraine. We don't ever talk about where they are, who they are. You know, like you'll never see that in our conversations until they're out, and then we talk about where we were. Chances are we're not going back to where we were, especially if we talk about it. But years ago, we ran a program where we hired women that were displaced, and they made borscht kits, so food. They got paid to make this. They had a livelihood out of it, and then we used that food that they'd created to go and feed people that were displaced. So it was smart programming. When this war stops, if it slows down and we can get in there, right, we'll run that program again as well. GlobalMedic, tell me how you use drones. So we launched Canada's first humanitarian air bridge using cargo drones to a First Nation up in Beausoleil First Nation. Did that last year during the pandemic. We use drones to do 4 things. 1 is to deliver aid. 2 is to, you know, get situational awareness. So that's a fancy way of saying what roads out, what bridges out, what populations move to. Like we'll fly over the schools and say, hey, the earthquake put everybody at this school, not that one. Send your aid trucks here. Again, better information. Better decision-making by the emergency manager. There's nothing worse than being on a convoy and driving 12 hours and getting to a bridge that's out. You fly the drone down the road, you'll know the bridge was out. You don't lose time going to it, or you find another route, or you figure it out into advance. We also then take photos and we create comprehensive damage assessments. So just think of it, you in your house, you get a windstorm, you get some damage to your roof. What do? You want to make an insurance claim? What's the insurance company say? Prove it to me. Right? Prove to me that you've got damage, right? If you're a country and a third of your country is wiped out by a hurricane, you have an insurance company. It's called the UN or the World Bank or the Caribbean Development Bank or whatever government agency that they go to get more money. First thing they're going to say is prove to me you have this level of damage. So if we come in, fly drone missions, grab imagery of everything, cross-stitch that into maps, and then do an analysis and show all the damage, well, guess what? It's easier for them to get money to rebuild. And the cost of doing something like that is enormous. But if I can come in and offer it for free, thanks to Google and all these companies that donated drones to us and all my great pilots that volunteer, that's a wonderful service, right? Won't save a life immediately, but it'll help with the rebuilding process. You know, we map out evacuation routes during live volcanic eruptions. So, you know, I don't like when my drones get too close to the volcano, but we got to show the civilians how to get out, how to get down the mountain, right? You got to show the additional ways. So, and you know, it is interesting. So that's how we use, that's the quick, dirty version of how we use drones. You know, it's a fascinating program. Do we go into Russia? The short answer is no. With all those sanctions, we couldn't spend a penny in there and keep our license. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure we'd be welcome and safe in there. We've run so many cross-border ops into Syria that we're not a welcome group. And in this thing, it wouldn't be. COVID's still a concern. Yeah, people don't really. We're the only ones wearing masks. It's hard. This is not a society that's believed into what COVID is, and It's hard for us because we're not there to lecture, or they're just there to help, but we do put ourselves at a higher level of risk, and they're at an incredibly high level of risk. And if you think COVID's not circulating in all these shelters, we're kidding ourselves, right? How do we recruit our volunteers to go on these ops? Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We've got, we've got 3,000-4,000 volunteers that come in. We got folks that would come in and just pack aid to help us lower costs. We've got folks that'll help us fundraise. We got folks that do a combination of that. Then folks will go and they'll take an online course through us, and then they'll take like kind of a tactical course that we teach them how to put up our hospitals. We teach them how to run our water units. We teach them all the stuff. We teach them all the stuff from here, and then they get on the short list and they go. And a lot of them are emergency workers, and they're like myself. They're paramedics. They're used to doing emergency response. We're used to responding to life and death situations, and they just do it. So at the moment, I probably have 10, 11 volunteers deployed. Now there are team rotations. So the teams are probably running 6, 7 deployed. So some people are coming home, some people are going out, which is why my number is a little bit higher. We try to run kind of 2 to 3 per op. This is going to be a long op. So we're going to have to rotate folks and keep their term length there as 23, 24 days. And then keep rotating them. There is no direct flight into Moldova. The airspace is closed. So we got to go into Yash and then take trains or cars over, or nothing's easy, right? This is not like the flight into Gatwick or the flight into Heathrow or a flight into Barbados. Like this is taking us days, days to get there and then to go in. Now, as it gets to scale and it's doing really well, maybe we can rotate one team between 3 spots, right? I do have kind of a retired labor relations lawyer from the city of Toronto. He's rotating in tonight. I think he's wheels up in about 2 hours or 3 hours. He'll stay there 10 weeks in Moldova to manage that. Knock on wood, the Russians don't take over. But that's his term. And then there's a paramedic from Edmonton, fire medic, who went wheels up this morning. Obviously, Edmonton's further back. They'll meet up in Yash and then they'll go in together. They've been deployed quite often, but then we'll use the opportunity. We'll keep Garth in Moldova, and then we'll start rotating rookies into a semi-stable space with an experienced team lead, so we can get them trained up, because it's all about succession planning, right? Like we can have the same people running all the same ops. We run so many ops a year. While all this is going on, I have 4 people deployed in St. Vincent running a food program there for folks that were affected by that volcanic eruption. And then obviously we do our Yemen or Syria or Lebanon or, did you guys even remember there was a war in Yemen? Like it's just not in the news anymore. And Syria has been totally forgotten about. So can we fly a drone in Ukraine from here? We could, but we're not. In a conflict zone, drones are not anyone's friends. The only drones that are up now are either surveillance to target someone or something that's going to fire someone at someone. And we're not, like, we don't operate in that space. So our drones are not active in these areas. And then your last question, which will take me to my time, is what can we do from here? Well, there's 3 things you can do. So number 1, a financial contribution is always very helpful. You go to our website, click donate now. Whatever you can give would be terrific. Number 2, share our information with your network, right? Because maybe you've got friends that can help us as well. And we're not good marketers. We don't tell our stories. We don't have a fundraising person. We don't have a marketing person, which I know is ridiculous. And, my team's always saying, look, Rahul, we got to get that. And I always promise to you, and then ops come up and, we focus on the ops, but we will. So make a donation, share our story to your network. And then 3, come out and volunteer. Like if you've got time, we do a lot of domestic programs. We pack food aid for food banks here. We even have a vertical farm. We're always looking for farmers to help us at harvest time. It's an indoor farm, so it's not as bad as being outside in the garden, right? But there's tons of opportunities. You guys aren't that far away from us in Lower Etobicoke or Oakville, and it's a great way to give back, and it's a good community. So that would be the 3rd way. So thanks so much for having me. I think I'm at time. Thanks for having me in, and keep helping us if you can. All right, so last question there before I go is just how to contact us to volunteer locally. You just sign up on our website, say sign up as a volunteer. You'll download an app and it'll show you all the shifts that are available. Literally you just say, hey, I want to go to that one. You sign in for it, you show up, you'll just meet a community of like-minded people and you just keep going through it.
Rahul, thank you so much. I forgot to prepare a thank you as I was writing. You are a busy, busy man and your organization does so much. It was hard to imagine how you went from an $8,000 organization to a $6.2 million without a fundraising person even.
Well, it's not always a good story. Like we went from 8, we tripled to 25. That's really not that good. Then we tripled again the next year, 75, still not that good. We tripled again, 250, tripled the next year to 750, triple to 2 million. Okay, now you're a reasonable entity. Triple to 6, but then the next year, man, did we ever collapse, right? As soon as that government changed. And look, for those of you that think our federal government is very good at international aid, no, they suck. We are probably the worst country in the world with our humanitarian practices and our lack of principles. And I know that's a very harsh statement and it's not politics. Like our bureaucracy is terrible. And then the political masters that are here now is not like, it's about photo ops as opposed to actually helping people. And it's heartbreaking to think that. So we collapsed again then because we'd lost government money, which we never really relied on, thank goodness. And then we scaled it back and we went from 1.5 to 3.5. We did 7 last year. You know, so we're a solid $7 to $10 million agency and we just do good work. You know, we're a very blue collar, let's just get the job done agency. You know, we're not flashy or glittery or it's just get the job done.
Well, we really got a sense of how well you get the right aid to the right people at the right time. And the efficiency with which you do it is something that's just blowing my mind, actually. Thank you for coming and making this time available to us when you are so completely busy around the world, quite frankly.
All right, thanks for having me. You guys take care, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Wow. Is
Wow.
everybody else feeling that way? Usually I have a thank you prepared a little
Wow.
bit, but I was just so wow.
Here.
I just want to make one comment. We booked this a year ago. And I would have liked to have said it while he was still with us, but he was off and running for the next thing. The fact that he kept this commitment in the midst of everything that they're currently doing is amazing.
It's amazing to me. I've just put up, hopefully everybody can see, I've just put up the screen if you want to donate. And if you go on there, there will be a link if you want to do something else, volunteer or whatever, the link will be there from that.
I was really impressed with, because this is the 3rd time I've heard him, but he said that when he goes into a community, they look and see like what those people eat. So if he goes to India, he doesn't give them, say, spaghetti. He gives them the kind of things that they are actually going to eat that they're used to. Like they're just absolutely, they tailor-made, you know, everything to the clients that they're serving. Like they're just amazing.
And
So
cooking the food there locally, so helping
Yeah.
the economy, not just bringing in, I don't know, craft dinner or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
we could send.
And during the pandemic, he did so much, like their group did so much for, you know, working with the pandemic in you know, Toronto and the GTA and with the homeless and everything. They've put up, you know, different shelters, and with the hospitals, apparently they put up tents and everything, you know, for the pandemic. I mean, just, you know, when you
Pretty
listen
amazing.
to all the things they do, it's just awesome. Yeah.
It's amazing too, when we hear of a lot of organizations that get paid big salaries, whereas they're all
Volunteer.
volunteers.
They're all
Yeah.
volunteers, and it sounds like a lot of them are retired, but not necessarily. And they're retired from jobs that they can actually help, retired firefighters, paramedics, nurses, doctors. That's fantastic.
I said I was looking for the hope in his speech, and the fact that they're getting aqua tablets into Mariupol, that was my piece of hope that I can take away from here.
Mhm.
We look at outreach and the money that we have in outreach. Is there some way that we can give as an organization some amount of money? I have no idea what we could afford to do besides personal donations. I really think when we have some of these guest speakers who do incredible work similar to what we did for International Women, if there's some way that we can give to this organization. I just thought I'd make that comment.
Yeah.
Well, I think that some of that money that we got back from our, from National should go to.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
do
we're
too.
going to be meeting shortly to look at
Mhm.
Yeah.
the money that we are getting back. You're right, the
Mhm.
refund from the GWI payments. And
Right.
we're going to make a short list of where we think that money might make sense to go. And then we'll put it out to the membership to kind of vote on the first three, or whatever people think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back. Please stay with us. We've got lots of quick announcements and we will try to make it quick, I promise. Stop that share. Okay.
When I made the donation, I put CFUW name on the donation, just so that they might clue into the fact that that's where the money came from.
Yeah. I had mentioned, actually, our neighborhood is doing something, and I said to them, I think they were thinking about the Red Cross, and I said, well, the Red Cross has a very high administration and everything cost. I said, but this group, everything goes to the it's like the Salvation Army, like they don't pay their leaders very much. Everything goes to the actual cause, and that's what I like about this one. They're just amazing. They just do so much good.
Yeah. And back in the wars, it was the Salvation Army that was there
Yeah.
handing out food and.
Yeah, you can always count on the Salvation Army,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah.
I really like the fact that they hired people locally,
Yes.
and that that was the right aid. And I had never thought about that. I thought of
Yeah.
it as volunteers. He said there's 11 over there right now. Wow, what 11 people can do. I was
Yeah.
left impressed by that.
Yeah, but what is so impressive about this organization is that it's tailor-made to what they need. That, like they say, they
Yeah.
go in and talk to the people, they find out what they need. And
Yes.
said they've been doing wars, so they know what's needed in a war, right? So it's just awesome. Yeah.
How did we find this guy? Who found him? I'm just gobsmacked by the whole thing.
I did actually. I had heard him through a progress group, and I thought, well, we have to hear about this guy because he's just amazing. I couldn't believe all the things that, like I said, during hurricanes and everything, they go in and they look and see what they need and everything, and then they fit everything what they actually need, right? So, and it's like no waste of anything. And
Yeah,
they
I
get,
think, sorry,
yeah.
I was going to say, I think I heard them with the Richmond Hill Speakers Series, and I was equally impressed because this is only maybe last year. And he gave a more general talk about, wasn't about a particular war or that. And yeah, I was extremely impressed how efficient they are, and they'll work out a cost per whatever that's so much more efficient. They had these buckets that were shaped square instead of round because it could fit more in. Like, they just had such a unique approach. I was very impressed. So I'm glad that you found them again.
Yeah.
They're really unique that way, I think.
Thank you, Janice, for bringing him to us. This was, I think, one of my top.
Yeah. Well, I you know what, when I heard him, I thought, you know what, we should be volunteering. to this. I keep saying to Lynn, this is something you can volunteer. And when you look at their website, you can go in for, like you said, once you sort of take that course, you can go in and for a day, if you have a day off, you can go pack up food things, or you can pack things up. Like, it's not like you have to do big, long commitments. It's
You don't
do a
have to
day.
go to Romania.
Yeah.
You can help here.
So,
Interesting. I noticed they did the BC flooding disaster too. Like, so they're working at home. When he spoke about growing food here, I wondered where that fits into Ontario's food banks or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
But yeah, it's not just international. it's
Yeah,
within
he
country too.
Yeah, he seems to do a lot of research on, how can you get things in bulk, like he said, and
Yeah.
at the best possible price. Like, it's everything he's doing. It's not, there's no waste in it, which is amazing.
Do you get a sense that he's a paramedic in Toronto at all anymore? Like,
I
he
don't
came
think
from
so.
Montreal. He was a paramedic then in Toronto for 10 years, I think, or a paramedic somewhere for 10 years.
I don't think he is now.
No,
But
I
I
don't.
thought for a while he was.
Dolores might be able to answer that, but I think as the executive director, I think this is his full-time piece.
Job now, yeah.
I'm looking at the write-ups that we've been posting and including in the newsletter and on the website. Dolores, would you agree that you're on mute? He's full-time.
With GlobalMedic,
Yeah.
I would think
But
so.
full-time here, probably, mostly.
Probably
He is their
mostly in
marketing.
terms of being able to direct the whole organization, though he
Yeah.
certainly has an extremely good feel for what each of these locales requires. So I guess that's why he's had so many awards. He does it so well.
Also, it says like the innovation and technology that he's created to, Singh continually strives to develop Canadian innovation in order to save lives.
I didn't want to ask it because I didn't think he could answer it, but I would really love to know what the range of the drones are and whether they could be detected by radar, and if they might be able to, sneak some water purification pills into places like Mariupol, or, I mean, he couldn't have talked about it if they were doing it. So I didn't ask the question, but they were talking, as I understood what he said, is that with drones, they were able to actually bring in product to some of our remote First Nations people and so on during COVID. Anyway, it's fascinating. You should all get a group to volunteer together for a day and share the ride out to wherever it is.
I'd be there.
I'm sure you would be. I would have been a little bit younger. I wouldn't last a whole day now.
Well, thank you for those who stayed. We're gonna start.
Yeah.
We're gonna start our meeting, and we're gonna start with Fulvia.
Perfect. I wonder if I could get you just to flip the slides over for me. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. I'll tell you when to switch the slide over. But how do I follow Rahul Singh? What a like! Oh my goodness, that was a very, very tough speaker to follow, but I'll do my best, ladies. So I thought he was absolutely fabulous. So good evening. My name is Fulvia Cantarutti. I'm the president of the Charitable Trust, and I have the pleasure of working with so many of you amazing team members. So this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Charitable Trust, give you a bit of a historical perspective, but more importantly, talk a little bit about what are our goals currently and what are we working on. and indulge me, because many of you probably know this information very well because you were members when the trust got formed. So I'll just try to be brief and take you through it. So of course, everyone knows that the trust was established to give financial awards to local female students to further their post-secondary education. I should stop there and say it's not just university students that we support. We give to students who are going to attend a community college, university, really a diverse field of study that person wants to pursue. We also give an Indigenous Student Award and a Children's Aid Society Award, and those are presented to young men as well as women. Of course, you all know that the Trust also administers some awards through endowments. For example, we have the Mary Peg Award, and that family gave $100,000 in memory of Mary. So every year we chip away at those funds and we give $10,000 to one girl who sees that money stretched over the 4-year program that she's attending. In 2010, so it's interesting, in 2010, this was pre-trust. We weren't incorporated until 2015, but the club in 2010 gave a total of approximately $4,000. And then in 2015, once the trust was established, we saw an increase in the number of awards we were able to give, and we were giving approximately $6,000. Well, lo and behold, here it is, last year, 2021, we gave in total $30,500. So you can see the benefit of having a trust that gives taxable receipts. We're seeing more and more donations come from our members and from the community. Next slide, please. So what are the goals for the trust? I mean, if you ask me what I would like to see, what the board is working on is we want to increase the number and increase the dollar value of awards. We also want to give everyone a tax receipt for their donations. So if you donate over $20, we can then issue you a donation so that we can make your dollars go a little bit further and you get a nice credit for your return. Of course, we would love to attract more endowments and honorarium donations. And so this is really something that you see us working on the background. What a great gift it would be if you gave, a fellow member or a good friend a donation to an award, and that person would receive a little certificate or a little letter saying, I've honored you this way by making a donation. So I just thought I'd put that out there. Next slide, please. So how is the trust structured? A lot of people say, well, the trust is part of the club or it's under the club, which it's absolutely not. And there's reasons for that. So the charitable trust was formed to build on how we can distribute awards, right? So we had to get incorporated. So our founding members went to ONCA, applied for a corporation number. They got their corporation number, and then they had to go to the CRA to now say, okay, we're incorporated. Can we apply for charitable status? So there's 2 steps there, and that was done in 2015. When you go to CRA, you have to state an object or a purpose, the sole purpose of your trust. And kudos to the ladies who submitted all these applications. They wanted to include things like the writing contest and things like, can we give to community projects? And the answer from CRA was, no, you cannot. You have to pick one object and it has to be narrowly focused. And so, if you're going to say that you are, your purpose is the advancement of education, you must stick to that. And that's because we have a fiduciary responsibility. When someone gives us a donation of $100, and we say we're giving the awards to advance education, we can't then turn around and give it to subsidize, community program or something else. It's still a very good cause, but it doesn't really advance education. So we have to abide by that. Of course, with the privilege of having a charitable trust, the CRA expects us to have an independent governance structure, and we have to comply with that. We have to file our own returns, and we have to tell them every year who our directors are and all of that good stuff. And we have to maintain an arm's length independence from the club. Next slide, please. So how does the trust operate? We're a charity. We have a separate board of directors. All the trust members, of course, are club members. We use the funds to give awards to qualified donees and recipients. We maintain control over the selection process through an independence award committee. So even the Mary Peg family, who has given us this large donation, they cannot come in and tell us, can I direct the funds to that recipient? It just doesn't work like that, and CRA doesn't allow us to do that. We have to operate independently from our donors. And of course, we file our own annual returns. Next slide, please. So how are we structured? What sort of things are we working on? So if you look at this organization chart, you think, oh my goodness, they built an empire over at the trust. And that's not the case. So what we did is we drafted up this organization chart just so that the ladies that are working on the trust can kind of see what are the different streams of work that are associated with what we do at the trust. Of course, we've got the president, the treasurer, and the secretary, but then we needed someone in communications that also was with the club that could kind of communicate in sync and with what the club is doing and keep abreast of what we're doing to keep members well informed. Then we have the awards chair and that committee working on the student awards, the Mary Peg Awards, the Seneca and York University Awards. Then we needed someone in fundraising to liaise with what the club is doing in fundraising so we can ensure that we had a sustainable funds rolling into the trust so we could continue to give out the awards. And then we have a donor chair who works on things like corresponding with corporate community donors, how we thank our donors and work on endowments. And then we have the Gen Next liaison that actually belongs to the club, but that person is working to onboard some of our award recipients and helping them become aware of the club and hopefully future members. Next slide, please. So having the club and the trust is really a win-win situation. It is truly the activities of the club and their donations that allow its charitable arm to fulfill its mission, and that is the advancement of education. The charitable trust administers, they distribute awards based on the criteria that's established for each scholarship. And the more we're out in the community, either giving awards, collecting applications from these young students, we're building a very strong presence in the community. And that is only great news for the club because we're getting known and we're getting noticed. I really believe together we have accomplished a great deal on the awards front, but with prohibitive costs of education today, we hope that we can continue to do more in the future. And again, something that I say regularly in our board meetings, our choice to support education can dramatically impact the world of tomorrow. If there's anyone that has any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. I'm in the directory. It's fulvia.cantarutti@gmail.com. If you don't like emailing, give me a call. I'm happy to have a chat. And if you're interested in doing some work with us, again, please call me. Thank you.
you. Okay. We will continue. Becky, did you want to speak to these?
Well, most of the committees have stopped their discussions now and are preparing their reports on the results of the discussions. Next Wednesday, we will meet as a group from all of the resolutions, as is shown here, and then decide our final results on March the 31st, as is shown. Those results will be sent out as a survey to members to make sure that they agree with our decisions, because it is a group decision, club decision. And then the results as they represent our club will be sent to national in the middle of April. So they're very interesting resolutions, as you saw on the other screen. One of the ones in particular that will be coming up in the near future is the harassment of women politicians in the election that's coming up in June. Female politicians always have a hard time even going to doors and being treated with respect. But also even here in Aurora, some very crude statements were written across signs and so forth. So that's then when they get elected, then it doesn't stop there. But anyway, that's an important issue that is being discussed, and it's a timely one that you can be aware of as the candidates are campaigning for the next election. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on. Something we've been talking about is the GWI rebate. So we have an ad hoc committee, club and board members are going to meet. We've set a meeting for April 7th at 1 p.m. and that's going to be by Zoom to explore options. It's approximately $4,200. We have received most of that money, and there's, I guess, a check in the mail for the rest of it. Support for international or local initiatives or groups are going to be considered in line with focusing on education and improvement of status of women and human rights. So we will come up with the ideas, as I said previously, and the member survey will follow. If you're interested in joining, if you're available that day and you want to join us and be part of the discussion, please send me a quick email and let me know, and I'll send you the Zoom link. Okay, Irene, you wanted to talk about photo cards. You okay to talk now?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. I would just like to suggest that if you get a chance and you haven't already, to go on to the CFUW Aurora Newmarket website, and under events, click on the spring photo card sale. Again, we are selling the photo cards to raise money to support the Stay in School program that we run with the Children's Aid Society. And we would just encourage people, think about what cards you like to send to people, give a package of cards as a gift. We've got, Mother's Day coming, we have Easter, lots of opportunities to use cards or to give them as presents. Anyway, we have 66 photos this time round, and some of them are old favorites that have sold well in the past, and lots of new ones. And I would just please encourage you, the sale runs until the 1st of April. So if you haven't already had a chance, please go on, have a look, and also suggest it to your friends. So far, we've actually received orders for about 95 cards, I think was the latest number from Donna. And of that 95 though, about half of them are my friends who are not members of the club. So the more you spread it around, talk to your family and friends, they might, again, lots of people use cards. So there's lots of opportunities. Anyway, thanks. Hopefully you'll find something you like. Thank you.
They're beautiful cards. I've ordered, as I always do, and I always keep at least half of them because I just can't bear to part with them. They're so beautiful.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay. See. This is what's coming up. Becky already mentioned it. Ontario elections are coming. Hooray. Becky, did you want to talk about the excitement of the elections?
Well, I heard it's only about 6 weeks away now, so we're getting closer. Just a reminder to everyone, CFUW is a nonpartisan organization. So when we talk about the elections, it's not about a particular party, but on the screen, you can see many of the issues that we have discussed recently in CFUW, and which would be important issues for you to bring up to any candidates before the election. However, there are also many others that we could add to this list, such as education or the healthcare situation, the environment, pay levels for nurses, PSWs, daycare workers, and there'd be other ones from our local communities that you might want to add to that list. Such things as how our climate, our local climate, is being affected by development and road building and so forth. So what we encourage you to do is to go to the to our website. CFUW Ontario Council provides excellent material for all the clubs. In that toolkit, you will see questions that you might ask candidates in order to have a discussion about those that are of particular interest to you. And also, I would suggest that as mothers and grandmothers or aunts or whatever, you might want to help young women or young men make decisions about voting as well. Some of them might be voting for the first time or early in their voting career. And the whole point is to make educated decisions about how you're going to vote. The other point that we can remember through the process is that if a candidate says that he makes a statement that he supports a particular issue, and if that candidate is elected, we should hold him or her accountable so that it really happens when they get elected into office. So I just encourage you once again to go to the toolkit. And I know we've all voted many times in our life. It's not a new experience, but it really is important to make educated decisions. And at this time in our world history, it's even more where we realize that it's even more important to protect democracy and to really cherish those rights that we have. So lots of issues and lots of things to talk about and probably lots of candidates to meet. So thank you for looking up that information and maybe picking up some hints from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to our next slide, which is about International Women's Day.
So we were very happy about International Women's Day on March the 8th. Canadian women standing with Afghan women. I think it was well attended, and we were able to get to the bridge and sing "O Canada." We were very happy that Leah Taylor-Roy, the MP for Aurora, Oak Ridges, and Richmond Hill, was able to speak at our International Women's Day event, and as well came with us for our walk at Fairy Lake. So I think that was really great. If you didn't get a chance to listen to the speakers, please go on to the YouTube. You can see the link there on your slide. It's also, if you go onto our website, you'll see it there. I think you will find it really, really interesting. I also want to really thank Carolyn, who organized this event for us. We really appreciate the amount of work that she did to put this all together. And as well to thank Anne Marie for her media promotion, which I think again made it even that much better. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was Lunafest, and Lunafest was on March 11th to the 13th. I hope that you were able to see the films. They were excellent. I was really impressed. And what I liked about them is that a week later, I was thinking about a couple of the films and wanting to talk to somebody about them. And to me, that always is what's great about a movie or a book, is that a week later, you're still thinking about it. So they absolutely made an impact. We were very happy. We've made $1,032 from Lunafest, which will go towards our outreach program. So we're very thankful that that happened. And again, thank you to Valerie and Anne Marie again for all of their help with Lunafest. I don't think it could have happened without them. The other thing I did want to speak briefly about is the writing contest. As you know, the writing contest was put on hold for this year for a number of reasons. We do have to make a decision if the writing contest will continue next year. And I think really what we need to know from the membership is there an interest to have this continue? And are there volunteers who are passionate about it, who are going to be able to make it work? My understanding from past years is that the writing contest has been successful, but it's been successful because of the volunteers that have been working hard on it. So I will be putting a little piece into the newsletter, but I really want to know from the membership, will there be support for it? For the core committee, we're going to need a chair, co-chair, people who are very enthused about it, and at least 8 or 9 people in that core committee. And then we talk about, I think about 14 or 15 judges. So quite a number of volunteers. However, please let me know if this is something that you want to see happen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're off to Donna. Okay.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening. As you know, we are very excited to be approaching our CFUW Home and Garden Tour on June 18th, not too far away. And we have an absolutely great tour lined up for you. We have an interesting blend of city and country homes and gardens. It's just fabulous. So in order to monitor the homes and gardens on June 18th, we do need your help to act as volunteers. So to those of you who have already signed up as tour volunteers, we'd like to say a great big thank you. If you have not signed up, would you please consider doing either the morning volunteer shift, it's about 3 hours, or the afternoon shift. And Margaret Blanchette or Pam Jones will be contacting you by phone in this regard. We're going through the directory and we're contacting everybody. So please try and think about whether you could do one of those shifts. So if you are a volunteer, you will still have opportunity to see the show homes outside of your shift time. As well, we're having what we call a rehearsal the night before, which would be the evening of June 17th. And you could also get a chance to go and take a peek at the other homes at that time. If you can't volunteer on June 18th, we do require volunteers to distribute what we call the tour brochures at the Legion Hall, and that would be about a week before. So if you're going to be out of town and you unfortunately can't be around on the tour date of June 18th, there's volunteer assistance that we would need about a week before at the Legion. So the tour is a fundraiser to celebrate our 65th anniversary. So we're asking that all volunteers do purchase a tour ticket. So to tell you a little bit about the tickets are $40 each, and that entitles you to tour all of the 9 sites. Our goal is actually to sell 500 tickets, but we truly believe that we can do this. It is an attainable goal because we've looked at the success of some of our sister clubs, what I call sister clubs. with CFUW and St. Catharines and Aurelia that were very successful at this. So we think we can attain the same success. The tickets must be purchased online. And the online ticket sales will open on April the 5th. And you can access the ticket sales platform via a link that we'll put right on our CFUW Home and Garden Tour website. So you can just click on there and go into the online platform. So you purchase your ticket online, but you also need to pick up what we call the tour brochure. As I mentioned, that would be at the Legion Hall about a week before the tour. You bring your brochure on the day of the tour. It contains the map and interesting descriptions of the homes and the gardens and advertising features, information about our sponsors, etc. So that's the actual brochure you bring with you. And you know, the house tour tickets there, they'd be a fabulous Mother's Day gift, a birthday gift, or even a graduation gift. If you know somebody who's completing high school, college, you know, a lovely gift for them. I know that my own mother would have loved a day like this to see beautiful sights and to socialize and to learn about decorating and gardening tips. So please make sure that you join us on June the 18th, and we know that it will be a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Lynn, we're on to the social.
Okay, well, today was our very first social outing for 2022. And I understand it was a great day, as you all see it and experience today, I'm sure. Hopefully you were all outside. But the tour happened today at McMichael's. It was a complete sellout, and word got back to me that it was very enjoyable, a lot of fun. And so the next date, of course, is the 29th. It's a week today, and the same format. For those that are registered, have already received a welcome note from Linda Noble, who is the contact person for that day and is leading it. I must say though, if you have registered for the 29th and find at the last minute you can't attend, please let Linda know. And if you would like to attend and are maybe looking for cancellation, please let Linda know also, so that that maybe we could create an opening or have an opening available, I should say. So that is well underway. So what's happening next is in April, it's our lunch and laugh at Madsen's Greenhouse in Newmarket. And it's a 11 o'clock start. You just need to bring your $15 with you. And you don't need to bring a yoga mat, but bring a chair. So we will be having our lunch inside the greenhouse after our yoga session. And the tea and coffee will be made available. And thanks again to Carolyn, who's going to be making cupcakes. And she's promised some gluten-free muffins, I believe, that would also be available. And if it's a lovely day like today, there's the opportunity to go for a walk on Tom Taylor Trail, which is right next to the greenhouse. So that's going to be great also event. And the registration for that will be coming out in another week or so. So please sign up for it. And a few weeks after that, the notification and the registration will be sent out for our May dinner, which is at the old town hall in Newmarket, May the 31st. You know, there's a fashion show. I'm sure the words got out to everyone. We're planning to recognize 100 years of fashion at our May dinner. And it's also another way of celebrating our 65th anniversary as well. So the models have been trying on their outfits, and there's going to be a dress rehearsal coming up before the event, and we all have to learn how to to strut our stuff or dance to the music of that era. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and we've heard great reviews about our caterer, A Million Mouthfuls, that many of you are familiar with. So it's going to be a fun event. You'll hear more about it, read more about it in our newsletter and through e-blasts. Yeah. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Okay. I'll Okay. All right. So CFUW Ontario Council AGM is going to be in person in Kitchener-Waterloo, specifically at the Doubletree Hilton in Kitchener. Anybody can attend if you want to. I have registered and I will be the voting delegate, but anybody can attend if you want to. It starts Friday evening. Friday is a leadership workshop and social, and then Saturday are workshops and lunch, and it's a really nice way to reconnect with your friends from other CFUW clubs. So if you're at all interested, you just go on the Ontario Council website, and there's also a link from our website to Ontario Council, which will take you there to registration. Okay, this is where I've been for the last 2 weeks, this week and last week. UN Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 66, pretty much all day, every day, Zooming. Some fabulous, interesting reports and webinars and seminars and meetings and videos, and it's just fascinating. There will be a report that's created by all the delegates. I'm one of 18 delegates from across the country for CFUW, and the report will be written and highlights of our various sessions, and we each have to write our own report that goes in as well. What's fascinating is, I guess I didn't really think of it quite that deeply, how much more women and girls and children are affected by climate change than men. And you would think, really? It should be kind of everybody affected. But think of something as simple as water. If water is not available, and unfortunately that actually is the case still for some of our Indigenous communities, even in Canada, but in many countries, water is not readily available. Well, who brings the water? It's almost always the woman. And the woman has to sometimes travel for half a day to get water. And that is a place where women are often attacked. And gender-based violence is unfortunately not uncommon while women are going to get the water that their family needs. So something as simple as that, as not having a clean running water close to home or right in your home, makes a huge difference. Anyway, won't lecture, but it's really fascinating. And if at some point you want to go, you don't have to be on the national board. It happens I am, but not all of the delegates are. You can certainly apply another year to go. It's worth it. I don't know if they'll do it by Zoom next year or if they'll do maybe a hybrid. I think they're thinking they might do a hybrid because a lot more people can attend that way. Okay. This is something very exciting, and it was like being a detective trying to find this thing, but there is a fantastic video. So our club is 65 years young. Well, the producers, Jerry Adams, Lynn Clooney, and Pat Parker put together this fantastic video for the 50th anniversary, includes some historical bits at the beginning and then some interviews with presidents. The video is coming soon to our newly revamped and updated website. So look for that. It will be very exciting. And we're going to look at a time when it makes sense for us to show the video in person, perhaps at the May dinner, but we have to work on the logistics. I'm not sure if that's the right spot, but we will find a time. Okay, this is usual. This is the same as we've had. You know, everything is linked from our website. If you don't know where the national is or Ontario Council, everything is linked from us. And Janet, I don't know if you have anything updates for the directory. I know that was sent out just very recently.
I still have some in my trunk, and I got to make room for my beach pails and so on and sand things. So anyway, I've been connecting with people who don't as yet have their directories, and I hope everybody received the e-blast on the membership update. And also part of the membership update was a reminder to join us in the March Madness contest, where there were 22 members who were interviewed or were made statements in the newsletters since January 2020. And it's, in my mind, it's a very easy go. The winning person is going to get 2 free tickets to our home and garden show. But if you listen to this, this must be the easiest one. I don't know why I included it. Clearly, this member's culinary prowess with butter, sugar, syrup, egg, and the occasional nut or raisin rivals the maid's cottage, as evidenced by raising more dollars than any dozen known in the free market. Now, if you know the answer, don't say it. I'm waiting for people. Becky's laughing. It's not you, Becky. You're on there, though. You are in there. You can probably.
Irene's nodding. She knows who it is. Enter the contest.
So please send it in to me. I may extend the deadline. It is the 25th of March, but things are not trickling in quite as quickly as I'd hoped. So take a look, send them in, and take a stab at it. It was fun to write, by the way. It was the ladies in this organization, the women are incredible, and I hope I didn't go too far in some of my words that I used. But I did want to add something else, Kathy, if there's time. It's you know, we really did have a great day, 30 of us at the Michael Gallery, and you know, we talked about art, we talked about the beginnings of the group of 7, the fantastic representations on the canvas of our beautiful country. But you know what else we talked about? The camaraderie, the connections we make and have made, and for some of us, getting involved in CFUW committee work and the board work. And it's our wish that more of you step forward to join us to make CFUW continue our good work. So please consider picking up one of our portfolios and making it yours. And that's what each of us have done. It may look overwhelming to, you know, some people. I won't mention any names, Kathy Wozniak, but some of the jobs that people are doing are over and above. But if you take a look at the bare bones of the portfolios and the committee jobs, it's up to each of us to flesh it out the way we want. And excuse me, I'll never forget when Dawn Horsted, former membership chair, gave me the files on membership, and she said, make it yours. And I did, and it was fun. And I just used some of the things that I thought were my own resources and skills. Some people may think otherwise. But anyway, please think about stepping in, take the box and make it yours. We'd love to hear from you. And good luck in the contest, by the way. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. Yeah, that takes us to the next slide. Please consider joining. Charitable Trust is looking for committee members. We are looking at the club for board members, committee members. You may not feel you want to step right into a board position. We understand that. Join a committee and learn all about what the committee does. And then maybe a year following, you might want to take on leadership. The other thing is to note that some positions, maybe all positions, do well with shared. I've never been in a club before this or heard of clubs that have 2 treasurers. That works for our club.
Does, yeah.
No reason it couldn't. Could there be 2 different people doing social chair? Sure, there could. Could there be co-presidents? Many clubs do it that way. Entirely possible. So if you want to share with somebody, you've got a friend and you don't feel like you want to do it yourself, and maybe you and your friend would do it together, absolutely, why not? Clubs work in different ways and different, I guess, leadership kind of roles that they take. And sometimes they blend 2 or 3 jobs that we do individually. We're quite a large club. A smaller club might be one person is doing 2 or 3 jobs and they blended it together and it works for them. So if you'd like to take anything on, please contact us. Almost done. All right. So this is our next one at the Legion. We are doing a test of the technology at the Legion. before that. And we're going to see how things go and see what we can connect and if it's possible to do a hybrid meeting. We know it's likely possible. Will it be high enough quality? I guess that's the question. Some people have done the holding the cell phone up. I don't think that works very well. I'd like it to be better than that, but we're working on possibilities, and Dawn has updated all our tech, so stay tuned. We'll let you know. And we will require all attendees to be fully vaccinated. We're going to encourage mask wearing, and we're going to abide by the Government of Ontario COVID protocols, whatever they might be then. And more, I would say. Okay. And now we've come to the end, and the Ask Us Anything. Stay on if you want, we'll chat. This is a social time. We'll see you next month. We will send you lots of information, and I'm going to stop the recording at this point. I'm going to stop the sharing. Here we go.